Have you ever been in a grocery store or maybe scrolling social media and you get hit, bam, with an advertisement from a realtor whose headshot has been updated since the 80s about buying a house, $0 out of pocket, 0%, no money needed. Is this true? Well, in today's video, I'm going to walk you through the entire house process and really show you today if you're able to buy a house with no money out of pocket. And at the end of the video, I'm going to tell you what is the best way I think you should buy a house so you know how much money to save. Now, before we begin, I want to preface this. Even if you have the intention to purchase a property with $0 out of your pocket, this does not mean you should be buying a house with $0 in your savings account. Fine, if you want to be savvy and try to find a way to buy with little as possible, that's totally cool. But you still want to make sure you have some savings in your bank account, please. No one's going to tell you this otherwise. The realtor doesn't give a crap. They're going to get their commission and leave. They're not paying your monthly payment for you. Try to have some 3 months, 6 months, few months of reserves in your bank account before you buy. Okay? I just have to say that from my conscience. So now let's get to it. First, we're going to talk about what is the biggest cost. That's going to be for sure your down payment. Now, the down payment depends on what loan program you're going with. So if you're going with FHA, it's 3.5% down. If you go with conventional, it can be 3%, 5%, 10%, or 20% down. Unless you're buying cash, then it's 100% down. If that makes sense. Question is, are we able to pay this without having to pay something out of our pocket? Well, actually, yes, 100% you can. The way you can do this is two ways. You can, one, ask for a gift from a family member or someone who's a blood relative or your wife or husband or fiance. They can technically give you the money as a gifted fund. And the second way is using a down payment assistance program. Now, every state has different programs. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to show you a program that's popular in my state to show you how we're able to accomplish that. This is a program that's popular in my state. It's called Home Plus. What a lot of these programs have is several options for you to take. In this case, you can use Home Plus with either FHA or you can use it with a conventional product. This down payment assistance program has several factors. You can take either 3%, 4%, or 5% down. That's right, you can take up to 5% in assistance to help you completely pay off your down payment. Now, remember, with FHA, it's 3.5, conventional could be 3. So you could take 5% and have 1.5 to 2% left over to use for other fees that we're gonna talk about. However, the more money you take, the higher interest rate you get. So for conventional, you can see here, if you take 3% in assistance, your interest rate's around 3.8, 4% of assistance, 4.125, 5% of assistance, 4.5. So the difference between 3 to 5% is going to be a little less than a point, which on average here in Arizona, a point varies your monthly payment about $150 to $250. That could be more in your state, so please verify that. With FHA, it is 3.125 for 3%, 3.8 for 4%, and of course 4.125, a whole entire point above that. Now, a lot of down payment assistance programs offer this as well, where they can give you a non-forgivable option. Most of the time, down payment assistance program forgive the money that they let you have eventually, maybe 3 years, maybe 5 years. The point is you're not on the hook as long as you don't refinance or sell it in between that time. Well, this program in particular, which maybe your program might have in your state, offers an option for you to have it be non-forgivable. And you're probably thinking, well, why the heck would I freaking do that? You know, I'm going to be stuck with the bill when I sell it. Well, here's why. With FHA, you can take 5 points of assistance and your interest rate will be 3.125, which is just as cheap if you took 3 points if it was forgivable. If you really care about the interest rate being cheaper, you could have it be cheaper if you add certain restrictions to your loan. Of course, there's several more factors like credit score, what your income is, where you live, all that fun stuff. But for now, we're talking about if it's possible to buy with 0 down. Well, for sure, it is definitely possible. So whatever down payment program you go, if you go conventional 3 or 5 or FHA 3.5, using one of these programs, you can definitely completely not have to worry about paying your down payment. So now we're going to talk about the next biggest cost that I usually see, which is the closing costs. The closing costs are going to be all of the other costs that people are charging you to basically close on the house. It could be your title fees, your lender fees, you're buying your realtor a steak dinner fee, inspection, appraisals, all kinds of crazy stuff that's just added there just to piss you off, really. On average, I see it in my state be about 2 to 3%. It could be a lot higher if your state has high taxes. If your state has really high taxes, I've seen it be up to 4 or 5%. So, but lenders usually like the rule of 3% as the number. So if we ask ourselves the question, are we able to get this paid without spending a dime out of our wallet? Yes, it is very possible. There's two ways of doing it. Other than asking your family member for money, which we already established, you can technically have them help you, but whatever. The two options are going to be having the seller help you with seller's concessions, and that's what it's called here. Essentially, when you make an offer on the property, you can ask for a seller to give you a certain amount of funds, and you could, in theory, ask for the entire closing cost amount, and that will completely rid you of the responsibility of paying any closing cost. The second way to do it is if you take the down payment assistance program where you get extra funds. Say you took a 5% of assistance and you do a 3% down program, you technically have 2 points left, right? So depending on the price range and all that stuff, or maybe you ask the seller to cover the rest, you can get it paid by the program and the seller combined. So far so good for the down payment assistance and the closing costs. You can pay these things with $0 out of pocket. So as you're looking for houses, I'm assuming that you're walking to them because you're not spending $1 for this purchase, right? So you're probably walking or asking for rides to showings. You're making offers, you're getting the ball rolling. Once you get the offer accepted, this is where you're going to run into a little hiccup. Most states are going to require something called the earnest money deposit, which is basically the funds that's going to be used to secure the deal for you. It could be as low as $1, it can be as high as $1,000, it can be 1% of the property. It's whatever your real estate agent decided to put in the contract. If they put $1,000 there and you're intending to still use the DPA program and the seller's paying all your closing costs, you still have to cough up that $1,000. Now, at the very end of the transaction, you'll get it back, but we're talking about buying a house with $0 out of pocket, right? So this is a crazy idea that probably will not work. And if it does work, please DM me and I will send you a gift because I think it's impossible. You could, in theory, make an offer and have the earnest deposit be $0, okay? You can even have it be $1, I guess, if you will. Now, there's especially in this competitive market, there's a very light chance that it will get accepted. So I don't recommend you do that. But in theory, it could happen. But if you really think about it, even if you say, let's put $1,000, but if the down payment and closing costs truly end up being $0, well, you're going to get that money back. So in essence, you're going to need some kind of temporary funds to give and get back. So I'll still say, yes, technically, you're not going to spend anything out of pocket within a 30-day span. Now, this is money you might lose if you breach contract and whatnot, but we're thinking hopeful, right? So far, so good. It's looking pretty good for all the cheap guys out there. However, it's time to do the home inspection. And in Arizona, it's not necessarily legally required to do a home inspection, but it's really, really recommended you get one because a home inspection is going to basically make sure that you know what you're buying, like what's wrong with the house, what's right with the house, what has the seller not taken care of well, what are some things you need to even keep an eye on. Home inspectors have no obligation to give anything for you for free. They're being paid for a service. They're going out there to do the inspection. So unfortunately, this is where you're going to run into a little issue. However, if we're thinking in the mindset of coming $0 out of pocket, you could opt to not do a home inspection. You can call your uncle, your brother, your dad, your mom, your aunt, your sister who works in construction and have them inspect the house for you. Now, it's highly unadvisable. And also, maybe your state does require an inspection, so please talk to your realtor. But in theory, you could be, for lack of a better word, not smart and waive your inspection and completely not pay anything out of pocket. But I bet you're probably going to have to pay something in repairs once you move in. So we're past our inspection. We're past our down payment closing costs. So far, you haven't spent a dime. You weren't even driving, wasting gas on your showings. You're in the clear. The next fees that are going to be needed from you are going to be probably the appraisal. The lender's going to charge you for the appraisal during this time to make sure that usually on average it's about $600, and this is what's going to verify what's the value of the actual property. Well, guess what? If you find the right lender that's really desperate for your business, or maybe they're just good people, they'll pay your appraisal for you. They'll cover it for you. They'll take a loss and they'll definitely get it covered, especially since you're probably making them so much money on the down payment assistance program that they're giving you. I'm sure they'll offer something. Now, if they are not offering something or they're not able to give it to you, in theory, you can actually make your appraisal be part of your closing costs. So if you negotiated enough seller's concessions from the seller or there's money left over after you pay your closing costs with the down payment assistance and the seller's concessions, they can be covered by there. So a smart lender might be able to pay for it up front and then get it paid for it later up through the closing costs. So believe it or not, we're almost done at the house purchase, and so far it's possible for you not to spend any money. Now towards the end of the process, you're almost at the finish line. It's all lending stuff and title stuff and signing and doing your final walkthrough that you're going to walk to or get a ride to, since you're not spending any money. And believe it or not, once you close on your property, you'll get refunded back their earnest money if you figured out a way to, get your closing costs and down payment assistance paid. And to answer the question finally, yes, it's 100% possible for you to buy a house with $0 out of pocket. Yeah, you had to spend some money on the earnest money. Yeah, you had to pay a little higher interest rate than most, where the lender's probably going to make a lot of money off you. And yeah, you put yourself in danger because you waived your inspections, but it's possible. Congratulations, you did it. So that being said, what should you do? Let's be real now. Is it okay to do this? Well, it depends who you ask. I personally do not think it's okay. First and foremost, like I said at the beginning of the video, I recommend you guys for sure have your savings ready to go. You want to have your house funds and you want to have your savings separate. So, because guess what? Like I told you earlier, if something happens, something breaks down, something happens to you, your health, the house isn't going to pay for it. So make sure you have a separate savings for your emergency, sorry, over here, and then your house funds, right? So the best thing I really recommend for most home buyers is try to put at least 3 to 5% down. Okay, preferably 5% if you're going conventional. So this requires you to have a credit score over 700. If you put 5% down, I've seen a lot of interest rates right now being very, very good. You save like on average 0.2, 0.3 difference than if you put 3% down. So I honestly do think the best thing you could do for your finances is putting at least 5% down. That will get you a really great rate. You don't have to break the bank. You probably do need some closing costs depending on your market, but that can vary. If you're more realistic and you want to get a better idea of how much money you're actually going to need to buy a house, click this video here where I break down how much it really costs to buy a house in 2020. I give you a little more options with different kind of loans and how much it's really going to cost you. So that way you can start saving and preparing yourself financially. Hope it helps. Have a good day.